Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. And this is Abernathy. He was sitting in the other chair, sleeping, for like the entire time I was setting up this docket. But then as soon as he saw the lights go on, he's like, I'm going to go on your lap and be a pain. And get into the cords and start chewing things and moving things around and shoving your mic around. So far in the sandbox, we have John Litham, Atticus Among Us, Ponzi Coin with a completely satirical name, Mozart or Broomer, B-Cat, the True Democratic North, Grand Theft Autobot. Wow, welcome everyone. Yeah, this is an unusual Tuesday evening live stream, and that is because I had way too much to cover in my Saturday live stream, and I kind of wanted to separate this topic out, talking about Megyn Kelly and her questioning of what is a child, and where's that coming from, and my thoughts on that. I wanted it to kind of be its own separate video too. So I will be talking about that today. So this will not be a super long live stream, probably just 3 hours or so. Yes, I know, Abernathy. Moving around. There you go. So cute. That's so cute. He's heavy though. He can't stay on my lap. You can't stay on my lap. You're too heavy. You hurt my legs. Yes, Grand Theft Autobot, you're on time. Did I say hi to her meteorologist? Hello, so welcome to this Tuesday evening, afternoon. Just some quick updates and things that will be happening. So tomorrow, if all stays status quo for me, I will be on this space to talk about, I have some things to talk about, just media and the oh fuck, what's the word? I'm already at it, aren't I? The pressure put onto women to conform to certain ideals and things of that sort. So that will be my tomorrow. It was kind of related to some of the stuff today, but I'm like, no, it'll be its own thing in this space tomorrow. Got a news live stream on Sunday. That's gonna be full of news. The Canadian Parliament voted on the budget and it just squeaked by, and there's some shenanigans that went along with that. Also, Alberta just invoked the notwithstanding clause again to strip away rights from trans kids.
Today in Canadian news.
Abernathy made me push the button. Come on. Come on. Oh, you're getting in the way. You're getting in the way. Go on. Scooch. Scooch. As I was saying, Alberta just invoked the notwithstanding clause again to make sure that trans kids don't have equal rights. So I'll be talking about that as well during my news live stream. So lots to talk about during that. Grand Theft Autobot says they saw a pole. A pole. You saw a pole, and you're mentioning that you saw a pole in my sandbox. Really? I'm not, I've fallen out of favor with polls over the last couple years. One might have noticed. I don't think they're accurate. I don't like them. It's all based on wording. They never get to the root of the issues and hearts and stuff and blah, 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 blah. So, I'm not a huge fan of polls. Oh, okay, so let's see, was there any other updates? Yeah. Well, Frodo, he's still doing okay. The only thing he eats on his own are treats, and one specific treat, not all the treats that I kind of present to him, but just one of them he likes. And so he'll eat that overnight. And so I'm having to currently spoon feed him. And by spoon feed him, you know those Chero tubes of food for cats? I got a bunch of those, but they're not meant to be meal replacements. So I had this bright idea that I would get, because he needs to have like actual cat food in him too. I went to the dollar store and I got an icing piping kit. Well, it's just a tube with the little plastic thing. And I shoved some cat food in there, snipped the tip so that it was nice and so that cat food could get through it, and started using that. And yeah, it works. It works. Anything to get food into him at this point is good. He doesn't necessarily like me doing it, but he lets me do it. As in, he doesn't fight me. He doesn't squirm away. He'll be fussy, but he doesn't fight me on it, and he'll sit there and take it basically. So that's a good sign. He was supposed to go for blood work yesterday to see if his kidneys are still roughly where they were at. And for older cats, they need to do a test on the heart as well before they go into surgery. And then they realized they made a mistake and they want to do it the week of. So next Monday, he's going back in for that blood work. And if that blood work is okay, then he's going for surgery on the Friday. Cross your fingers in every direction that you can. I don't believe in the power of prayer and for its utility, but I understand the comfort it brings, and I will take any comfort I can get right now. Also today, because of the generous support and donations from people, my car is now fully repaired. Sorry, got cat hair on my lipstick. And it's bugging me. Because that cat sheds like nobody's business. Yeah. So because of everyone's generous donation, my brake pads are all now fixed and good to go, and winter tires on and everything. So I couldn't have done all of this without the incredible support that I've received from my community. So thank you, everyone who has been able to help out with that whatsoever. Also, it means that there are several portraits up that are available to people living with less. So those are the portraits of the pets and the people that I do, and they're available to people living with less at cost. So you're just paying for the cost of the scan, a print for my records, and the shipping. So please, if you would like one of these, and it would normally be out of your reach, send me an email and we'll talk about it. Hello, Looney Tunes 9000. So, yeah. Let's see. Just checking the SandBox quickly. Yeah, so this is going to be a bit of a heavier, like it's a ridiculously heavy subject, I guess you could say, because what Megyn Kelly was saying was just so completely outrageous, but it's all about a very serious topic, and so I wanted to separate this into its own video away from the regular news stuff that I cover, because I have thoughts on it, and then we're going to do a bit of a history lesson for here in Canada about like the Ontario sex curriculum and the journey it's been on, and what Canada considers a child and things of that sort. So heavy subject, ridiculous at times, but heavy subject. So, I'm just trying to think if there was anything else I needed to update people on. Because I'm in a chatty mood and I'm trying to avoid this subject because it's a really difficult subject. Yeah, well, why don't we just get into it? Because I don't want to. This is my weeknight. Not that that means much. But yeah, this isn't meant to be a 5-hour long live stream. You know, a couple hours tops, hopefully. Oh, I forgot to plug in my headphones. But yeah, lots of news to cover over the next week. I can't wait till that TYT video essay is done so that when breaking news happens, like today in the Canadian Parliament, I can just hop online and start chatting about it as opposed to, you know, saving it all for the weekend and have like a 5-hour long live stream. Hello, John Glad. Anyway, let's get to it. So a lot of this turn in the right wing when it comes to questioning what is a child basically unshockingly began with the idea that Trump is probably, most likely is, in the Epstein files, which again is not shocking anyone who's paying attention. But the right wing made a lot of their brand on wanting the Epstein files released. They wanted to bring the PDF files to justice because that's what they're all about. Even fake conspiracy theories about pizzas and Pizzagate and, you know, child trafficking from the Democrats. And as long as they thought it was just going to be Democrats and the Epstein files, a lot of these right wingers were fine saying we should release them and making their brand part of it. But now, as it's becoming clear to them, it was always clear to the people on the left, because unlike them, we're like, we don't care which political background the people are in the Epstein files. We want them all held accountable. All of them. I don't care what party they were part of. I don't care how prestigious they are. I don't care how much I might have admired their work. If they're in the files for doing really bad stuff, they need to go to prison. Like, that's it. But the right wing is far more partisan when it comes to that topic. And so, unshockingly, when it became more clear Donald Trump is in it, a lot of the people who had previously supported the Epstein files and were talking, you know, about how PDF files are the worst and they should all go to prison forever and ever and ever, or some of them saying so far as they should all be executed, and on and on and on and on, are now changing their tune to start questioning, well, do we really know what a child is? And I can't say I'm shocked about that either, because look at the age that children can get married in the United States. It's all over the place. In Canada, it's a little bit more consistent because criminal law is federal. Civil law is provincial. But when it comes to like age of consent, that's across the board in Canada. But in the United States, it's on a state-by-state basis. And the age, like child marriages, are still allowed. I forget the number, but I believe it's over a dozen states. Child marriages. Children. You know, the ones that these right-wing Republicans want to protect. It's interesting how when it's primarily white Christian men, it's not all of them, but when it's white Christian men doing the crimes, suddenly they have a lot of leeway. They have a lot of excuses for what is a child really. But if they think that the person abusing the child is queer, well, then that's a different story. And that queer person needs to be locked up and thrown away and they're horrible and this and that and the other thing. But if a white straight man is doing it, suddenly they find excuses as to why it's not so bad. And they'll start using biblical references as to why it's not so bad. And all these other things, and start, you know, a phebophile or whatever that is, and start separating them. Like, is there, you know, and it's like, stop. Children are children. And any adult that is trying to justify it, find wiggle room, anything, needs to have their hard drive looked at. I'm suspicious of them. And from a moral standpoint, they are disgusting human beings. They are just the worst of the worst. Because how can any adult sit around and try to justify why it's okay for a 40-year-old to be with a child who is 16, 14, 12? There's just no. And any adult that would look at a child and want to get into and want to abuse them, that is just some massive bad wiring, sadistic, narcissistic, abusive people. And they should be separated from society so they're never allowed to harm children. Plain and simple. But when it came to the Epstein files, because the right wing had already built their brand on it, Donald Trump wanting to keep it hidden, that was getting a bit problematic for him. And there was, a senator down in the state that wasn't being sworn in because she would be the deciding vote and all this and that and the other thing. And then the pressure was on, and then Donald Trump is like, fine, just release it. Well, they did. Well, they will be anyway. Because that bill passed 427-1. Republican Clay Higgins is the no vote. So please go check his hard drive and make sure he loses his job. Do a recall on this sympathizer. Do a recall on him. Get him out of power. Anyone who voted no to that cannot be in government. Cannot be responsible for legislation. Plain and simple. Get them out. And check his hard drive while you're at it. But so this leads into the crux, the issue that I wanted to talk about today, specifically Megyn Kelly and some horrific comments that she was making, trying to justify Jeffrey Epstein and his interest towards children. Yeah. Just quickly checking the SandBox before I get to that. Orb rumor, 2 words for the U.S. youth pastor, red flags, yeah. The Catholic institution is responsible for a lot of the abuse that has happened. Looney Tunes 9000, time to make fun of Megyn Kelly, the ultimate Karen. And better than Ember, welcome to the SandBox. Remember, these are the people who insist on keeping child marriage legal in 42 states. I thought it was over a dozen. I guess I was right. I had no idea it's that much. Wow. Oh, hello, Pixel Snob. Yeah, just absolutely horrific. So I was technically right by saying over a dozen. I was just lowballing it. I need to stop being so naive about these things. But the comment that kind of made a stir online is this one. And Ari Drennan tweeted this out. GOP in 2022, what is a woman? And now the GOP in 2025, what is a child? They know the answer to both those questions. They just don't agree with the answers to those questions. So they keep on posing them as questions. They know what a woman is. People who are not, assigned female at birth, trans women, we have all explained it to them. Cis women have explained it to them. Cis men have explained it to them. Everyone has explained the difference between gender and having a sex organ and things of that sort, and hormones and this and that and the other thing, and what it means to take on the social role and adaptations of a certain gender to express yourself. They all know. They just don't like the answer, so they keep on posing the question. And now it's for children. They know what a child is, but they don't like the answer. So they're going to keep on posing the question. They're going to keep on trying to find that gray area to justify it, to be like, well, is that really the same? On and on and on. Because suddenly, when it comes to what is a child, the binaries that they love to stick to have just kind of gone out the window. And it's like, well, there's some wiggle room there, isn't there? Some girls at a young age can be very mature. Oh, I was considered very mature for my age when I was a teen, when I was a preteen. And I have no doubt now I was being told that by men who had inappropriate thoughts towards me. So it's like when an adult tells a 12-year-old, it's like, you look so much older for your age. You act really mature. That's a problem. But for those of you who might have not have been online for the past week, because this just came out November 13th, 5 days ago. So clearly if you haven't been online for a week, you have no idea this comment and how bad it is. But a lot of us on here have, on the leftist social medias have been covering this. So a lot of you have probably already heard this, but you haven't heard my commentary to it. So let's get to it. This was tweeted out by Republican Accountability. And we don't need to read the quotations here because she says it.
As for Epstein, I've said this before, but just as a reminder, I do know somebody very, very close to this case who is in a position to know virtually everything.
Who do you know that's very close to this case? I just want to know that. Who do you know? Who do you know that is very close to this case? And is it somebody, how are they involved with the case? That's something else I want to know, because her biases might be taking over here. Because if this person that she is very close to that is somehow involved with this case, is it because their name is on the flight logs? Is that how she knows them? If you're going to state that you know someone who is very close to this, then you should probably go a little bit step further and say how they're involved with it at least. Are they a reporter? Are they part of the court office staff? Are all these things? Because right now this leaves a door open to she's trying to cover for a friend.
Not everything, but virtually everything. And this person has told me from the start, years and years ago, that Jeffrey Epstein, in this person's view, was not a pedophile. This is this person.
Again, I'm getting very suspicious as to who this person is, because if people intimately knew Jeffrey Epstein and was not calling him a pedophile, then that person also needs to have their hard drives checked.
View, who was there for a lot of this, but that he was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls.
Excuse me, what?
He liked 15-year-old girls. This is this person's view, who was there for a lot of this, but that he was into the barely legal type. Like he liked 15-year-old girls.
You see, I could say Megyn Kelly is barely a human, and that is a correct statement. But saying a 15-year-old is barely legal is an incorrect statement, because, I don't know what the age of consent is in the United States for every state, but at least I know here in Canada, that is not the age of consent anymore. It's not barely legal, it's illegal. 15-year-olds can't consent. Plain and simple. There's no barely about it. They are high school students. They're in grade 10. They're worried about what outfit they're going to wear to school on the first day. Exams that are coming up. The trendy magazines and want to have the perfect outfit for their friends. thinking about sneaking alcohol for the first time, having a crush on the kid in the class next to them or something, trying to figure out what they want to do with their life, what college they want to go to. That's what 15-year-olds are up to, at least when I was a kid.
And I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts.
See, this is why I don't generally like to do like response videos, because I can't shut up after like every 3 words. You're fucking making excuses. That's what you're doing. You are absolutely making excuses. You're not just stating facts, because the fact is a 15-year-old is not barely legal. They're illegal. So you're not stating facts here. You're making excuses. And you're pulling those excuses out of your ass because they're all based on falsities.
And I realize this is disgusting. I'm definitely not trying to make an excuse for this. I'm just giving you facts. That he wasn't into like 8-year-olds, but he liked the very young teen types that could pass for even younger than they were.
Just excuse me a moment. Ugh. So you're telling me that he liked children who were 15 but looked younger because he wanted someone who she thinks is barely legal at 15. So you want a barely legal that could pass for younger because you might get in a little hot water if you go younger. Yeah. It's just, yeah. He likes those children that look like younger children. Absolute vile. B-Cat, my friend, and I drank all the vodka in my parents' liquor cabinet and replaced it with water. Then my cousin, a vodka-loving nun, came to visit and told on us. Mozart, the true illegals are those under 18 when it comes to sex. Grand Theft Autobot, he just liked 15-year-olds who could pass for 8-year-olds. That's better. How? Yeah, it's like, what section of an amusement park are these kids allowed to go into? It's just like, when they go to a restaurant, are they allowed to order from a child's menu? Or do they look young enough that they can get away with ordering from a child's menu? When you give them the crayons, do they start making little flowers and butterflies and stuff? Do the little maze, play the little games that are on those menus? Because they're fucking children? Literally? Just, yeah. Hello, Pond Jumper, Big Vicar. Welcome to the SandBox. We're talking about a disgusting topic here, that being Megyn Kelly opening her mouth.
Types that could pass for even younger than they were.
Yes, we want 15-year-olds that can pass for even younger than they were.
But would look legal to a passerby.
Okay, now this little statement that she gave just made 0 sense. It was like she was trying to figure out how to cover for them in real time and cross some wires. Because let's go back, unfortunately, a few moments.
Teen types that could pass for even younger than they were, but would look legal.
So he wanted children that looked like younger children, but would look legal to a passerby? How exactly does that work? Like this sentence being horrific also makes no sense. So he wanted a 15-year-old that could pass for a 12-year-old, but, you know, the passerby would see them as an 18-year-old. So what? He wanted this 15-year-old to put her hair in pigtails and little pink blush on the cheeks and stuff to make her look younger. But then, you know, when you take the pigtails off and the makeup off, she'd look maybe legal. How fucking gross is this?
To a passerby. And that is what I believed, and that was what I reliably was told for many years. And it wasn't until we heard from Pam Bondi that they had tens of thousands of videos of alleged, forgive me, they used to call it kiddie porn. Now they call it child sexual abuse material.
Oh no. How we refer to SA abuse material. It got woke. Yeah, we can't call it the cutesy little name anymore. We can't call it kiddie porn anymore. No. That kind of minimized the severity of what it was by giving it a cutesy little name like that. So we have to call it, you know, what it actually is, and that is child abuse material, which sounds, you know, exactly like what it is.
On his computer, that for the first time I thought, oh no, he was an actual pedophile. I mean, only a pedophile gets off on young children abuse videos. She's never clarified it. I don't know whether it's true. I have to be honest. I don't really trust Pam Bondi's word on the Epstein matters anymore. Yeah, so I don't know.
And this is actually a semi-valid point. I don't trust much of Trump's team in general. Like, if we get the Epstein files and they're proven to be the actual Epstein files and, you know, journalists and investigators can look over these themselves, then fine, I'll believe that. But it's kind of like those first files that went out to that selected few that were highly redacted, and then those few people were kind of saying what was in it. I don't believe a word of what they said. Do I take Pam Bondi as serious? No. You know, just like Trump's FBI lead and all that sort of stuff. You can't actually trust anything that they're saying. But we don't have to rely on what they were saying because there are actual survivors of what Epstein did and who he trafficked and everything. There's survivors of that. And they've told what age they were. There's ample proof. People have come forward. We don't need to rely on what Pam Bondi said. And even if it was just one person that came out and said, I was 14 and Jeffrey Epstein did this to me, that's enough. That's enough to be like, okay, so we need to investigate everyone that was involved. But there were probably, I need to look up the commercial. There's a commercial on this from women who were survivors speaking out, and they suspect thousands. We need to find each and every single person that knew about this and throw them behind bars. I don't give a damn what political stripe they are, how much I might have admired their work, whoever they are, I don't give a fuck. All of them need to be taken out of society.
What's true about him, but we have yet to see anybody come forward and say, I was I was under 10, I was under 14 when I first came within his purview.
And there could be a real devastating reason for this. Like, first of all, it's hard for survivors of sex trafficking, of assault, sexual assault in general, to come forward. If the people who assaulted them are in positions of power, it's even more difficult. But children that are trafficked at that young age, they often don't survive to adulthood. Through addictions, through violence, through mental health issues, coping mechanisms, unaliving themselves. And it's entirely possible there were, children to Megyn Kelly's standard of children, children under 10 that were abused and trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. But we don't know until those files come out. And I seriously doubt Jeffrey Epstein cared so much about their age. And so they're probably out there, no doubt about it. And it doesn't matter how old the child is. They're a child, and they should not be trafficked. People should not be trafficked. Because there was one comment that was going around that, Jeffrey would pass off his girlfriends once they hit a certain age. That maybe they were 18 or 19 or 20 at that point. They're still being trafficked. They're still being assaulted. It doesn't magically become consensual when they're 18, being handed over to someone else to be abused by.
Look, you can say that's a distinction without a difference.
Yeah, you could. Let's back up a bit.
I was under 10. I was under 14 when I first came within his purview. You can say that's a distinction without a difference.
No, it's not.
I think there is a difference. Yeah. There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
It's
Technically speaking, there are differences. One will probably be older than the other, but they also have something in common, and that is they're both children. There's lots of differences between a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old, but the commonality they have is that they're still children.
There's a difference between a 15-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
It's just whatever.
Not when it comes to this. But even her dismissive thing at the end of that, but whatever. And so, of course, it's not like she's the only one coming out to be like, really, what is a child? There's other people trying to redefine what it means. So this person here, I don't even know who he is. I write a newsletter you should subscribe to. No, don't. To redefine PDF file to mean attracted to anyone under 18 is the same as woke's defining racist to mean not a far leftist. I don't even know what the fuck that's supposed to mean. There's lots of people on the left who are racist. It's a definition that is specifically designed to make people irrational and engage in a moral panic. It has no other purpose. Yes, a PDF file. We can just use it. Anyone under 18. Done. I'm fine using it. I don't think we need subcategories. I'm fine with that. If you start using subcategories to try to see if you can be less guilty of the crime of going for a child, then that's a red flag. If you try to justify it. Just like a young person says, is there a reason why everyone right of center is defending PDF file? It's like this is actually crazy to witness. I feel insane. And yeah. And that same person also saying to call being attracted to 17-year-olds PDF files is basically calling all men PDF files. Oh, I think you just outed yourself. Yeah, you just called yourself out there because no, not all men are attracted to children. If you think all men are attracted to children, you just kind of outed yourself. because it's nothing like the following. He says, it's like saying all white people are racist on account of the society they were born into. Everyone is a little racist. It is on account of the society we were born into. It's societal, it's social, it's endemic in the system. It's something that we constantly need to work on and improve on. But everyone is a little racist because of the society we were born into. So it's nothing at all like that, because this going for 17-year-olds, illegal. They're children. It's not the same. And he says, reject all forms of bigotry. If you're saying that people are bigoted towards men who are attracted to children, you know what? I'm fine with that form of bigotry. That is fine. We can absolutely despise and criticize and discriminate against men who like 17-year-olds. Yeah, no, that's okay. Not all bigotry is bad, apparently. But he just really kind of outed himself here, because if him and all of his buddies are into 17-year-olds, that's an issue. And, there is a societal issue of sexualizing children. It's not as bad as it used to be. Like, there used to be ads out there of like 12-year-old models being put in sexualized positions, half naked in magazines and ads and Calvin Klein commercials and stuff of that sort. But it's like, oh, well, we're not showing any nudity or anything. Beauty pageants, I think, are horrific and disgusting and should not exist, because all they're doing is sexualizing little girls. There is a societal problem with sexualizing young girls that also needs to be dealt with and goes away. But any adult that is, not all men, look at a 17-year-old and think, yeah, this should be okay. It's not. It's not. If a 40-year-old looks at a 17-year-old, a child that could be their own child, there is something wrong there. And the Serf's pointing out, it's so funny that this guy completely bailed on the white supremacist to centrist rebrand. The second, not being attracted to kids, was on the table. But you see, there's a very evident turn in people like Megyn Kelly. And this goes towards people like, also, I would say, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because right now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a champion of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. She's been pushing for it. She's very vocal for it. She's out there, saying that people in these files should be held accountable, and it is all bullshit coming from her. If she does good by these women, great. These women deserve a champion. I just wish it was somebody who was more sincere, because I have no doubt in my head that had Donald Trump given Marjorie all the things that she wanted, the positions, the praise, the support, she would be absolutely just as bad as Megyn Kelly is right now. But it's because Donald Trump slighted her, miffed her, dismissed her, that Megyn Kelly is MTG is latching on to this and making it her thing. And it's a smart political move for her. It's a savvy political move for her, because, there will be a reckoning with this, because it's everyone across the board. Like, there's the right wingers that are trying to defend it, but a lot of the base of the right wing, it's not majority PDF files. Humans in general, majority are not PDF files. And there are a lot of right-wing Republicans that do have the best interests of children in mind, even though when it comes to things like queer issues, they're very misguided on what those best interests are. But most of them are horrified at this. And so when you have such a broad base of support for getting the Epstein files out, to being that advocate for the women. That's a very savvy political move, because this is one of the few things that might actually hurt Trump, is how he is in these files. It's one of the few things. We finally found the thing that he could shoot somebody in the middle of whatever it was, Fifth Ave, and get away with it. And I have no doubt he could have. But this is too far. Sad that it has to be something as horrific as this before people are like, oh, I was okay with all the deportations, the kidnapping, the summarily executing people on the sea, the sending weapons to Israel, all of this, but this one is a bridge too far. So a lot of these people are still horrible people, but at least with this one thing, it might be just a little bit too far for everyone. It might be the thing that is Donald Trump's undoing. But, Megyn Kelly wasn't always trying to justify PDF files. And I have no doubt that MTG, again, would be very similar turn in phrase with this.
You feel as a victim. You feel a victim. To people who are going to be out there, because some are going to judge and say, you were 15, you were 16, you were 17, you were a willing participant. Again, the legal age of consent in California is 18, so there's no consenting for a 14 or even a 17-year-old in these circumstances.
And then it just goes into the clip that we just saw. So, there's no consenting for children in those instances. Now, also keep in mind that Megyn Kelly is a victim of sexual harassment. That's why she left Fox News, was because of instances like that. And she was a little bit more supportive of victims and survivors. And she understood what a child was at one point. And the fact that she has a child that is, I'm not entirely sure of the age, between 13 and 15, and she is saying this stuff. How can you have a child, look at that child, and be like, do you know what? If the guy down the street wanted to hit on you and do horrible things to you, it's not like you're 8, have some accountability for yourself. It's not like you're 8. I'm not, like, what is she saying? That if her daughter at 15 were to be assaulted by a man, that somehow that's less severe than if her daughter had been 8. She's just so full of shit.
You feel as a victim. You feel a victim. To people who are going to be out there, because some are going to judge and say, you were 15, you were 16, you were 17, you were a willing participant. Again, the legal age of consent in California is 18, so there's no consenting for a 14 or even a 17-year-old in these circumstances.
Yeah, no consenting for even a 17-year-old in these circumstances. And again, keep in mind that just because they turn 18 doesn't magically make what happened to them okay. Doesn't mean that they're consenting, especially if they were groomed into this, if they were brought into sex trafficking at a young age. They're not suddenly consenting at the age of 18. They're still being abused. They're still being trafficked. And here's more of Megyn Kelly before trying to defend Epstein and Donald Trump.
Young women who might be thinking about leaning conservative or voting Republican. Do you think this is a good recruiting method after all of the years that we've been through where the Republican brand has been so damaged? Do you think they're wanting to sign up with a brand where it's like, hey, as I'm now seeing online, she was 16. What about her culpability? Oh my God, shut up. If that's your position, I can't even engage in a good faith argument with you. She was a minor. She was a child. To even equate the two on this scale is an absurdity that shows you, if you're making the argument, probably have some skeleton in your closet that you don't want me to know about. Young women who might.
So does Megyn Kelly have some sort of skeleton in her closet that she doesn't want us to know about? The total lack of principles of these right-wingers. Like absolutely soulless ghouls. No ounce of empathy, no ounce of principle. It's just, no, no, no. If it, I will turn on my idea of what a consenting child is, because suddenly the people that I like will be harmed by it. It's sociopathic. It really is. Like, if they will only support children because they feel it is professionally savvy for them to, that it will help their brand to support children, but the instant it goes against any one of their network, then they'll turn on it. That is, she shouldn't be a mother. Quite honestly, I feel like if you are out there publicly saying that 15 is not the same as a 5-year-old, that, you know, they're barely legal, all of that sort of stuff, her children are in danger, as far as I'm concerned. So somebody else tweeted out, eerie to see a woman of her age replicating the very young Marilyn Monroe of gentlemen prefer blondes. Still worse, the obviously insincere things she has said in support of Trump, and very recently preparing a defense of Trump as not a PDF file, strictly speaking, in anticipation of the Epstein files made public. And quote tweeting this, "It's hard to explain how much Trump has changed Republicans who used to be normal, but this video helps."
I think it's as hard as it is for women.
She looks a lot younger there, you know, but, you know, it's, one would hope that this is something, I don't care how many years go by, you don't change on this. You know, you don't evolve on, you know, a 17-year-old can't consent. And then 10 years later, well, maybe they can. That's not the type of evolution I like to see in a person's view.
I think it's as hard as it is for women like those that Charlie allegedly harassed to stand up for themselves in the moment and thereafter. And it is so hard. It's so hard, especially for young women not in powerful positions. The time has come. The time has come. We are in the middle of an empowerment revolution.
Yes, when it was her who was being sexually harassed. This is the time of a, you know, empowering movement. When she was on the receiving end of this, and she wanted to speak out against this. But now that it might hurt some powerful men in her life, well, things changed.
In this country. And the only way forward is for women to get comfortable throwing some sharp elbows, making waves, and taking risks, and holding the powerful to account. It is not,
Yeah, I know how to say the words in this show that I'm on to get the applause lines that I want, but we should hold the powerful to accountable. Yes, praise me for saying the right thing.
powerful to account. It is not,
Yeah, I said we should hold the powerful to be accountable. Yes. Thank you. Applaud me. Applaud me. I said the right thing here. Just trying to find whatever words you think will get you the applause line and have no actual belief in them, anything. God. They're just... They're avatars. Like, they're not real people. And then we'll get into some other issues around this particular thing. But before we do that, let's just take a quick look in the SandBox. Ugh. Let's see what people are saying. Oh, right. And I need to find that commercial. The ad put out by the woman. If anybody has the link to it, can you please toss it in the SandBox? The fact that they had to put an ad together for it too was just... maybe... Is this it? No. Should have remembered to find this earlier. Oh, here it is. Okay. I found it, so we'll play it later. Okay. So, found it. We'll play it. So B-Cat is saying, yeah, Sandy, it's violent. She has a 14-year-old daughter. Yeah. How can a parent look at their 14-year-old daughter and be like, you know, if that man wants to hit on you, it's okay. I know what that feels like. You don't exactly process it at that age, but you do later on. That's, oh, it's cute. He's showing you attention. Or Vroomer, you need an ID to buy groceries, but not a 13-year-old with Trump and Epstein. Yeah. Better than Ember saying, hey, there's a fun Florida fact. If the victim is 16 plus and second-degree felony, but a 15-year-old bumps it up to first degree. So Megyn is kind of right. There is a difference legally speaking. Yes, there are all sorts of differences between children those ages, but they're still children. Like, there's common things, there's differences, and there's things that are common. Mozart, define young children now, Megyn, as opposed to old children. They're both children. Hello, Super Strike 9. Or rumor, breaking news. There's a difference between a 5-month-old fetus and a 5-year-old. Megyn Kelly, yeah. Better than Ember. Self-report. That's the word that I was looking for. Yes, self-report. By saying, it's like, all men look at 17-year-olds and sexualize them. And if all men who looked at 17-year-olds and sexualized them were PDF files, then that would be all men. That's a self-report. That's the word that I was looking for. Super Strike 9, Trump sending Maxwell to a lower security prison with a bunch of benefits, like a therapy dog, is also a massive red flag. Guaranteed Trump made a deal with her that she doesn't ever mention his awful deeds. It's one of those things, like, even if they heavily redact those files, Trump's involvement is going to come out. Like, once you start opening that gate, and once, it's like the Me Too thing. Once some people started doing it, then that gave other people who have been victims to the encouragement to also say something, to know that they weren't alone, to know that there were other people also in these positions, and the momentum built and more people were coming out. The more these files are released, the more information about Donald Trump that is in there, the more, the stronger people are around it to feel like they can come forward. Because there was that story of a teenager, I think she was only 13, who had accused Donald Trump of rape. But this was right before his presidential run, and she suddenly went quiet. Because, yeah, it's it's dangerous with these powerful men and what they would do, and what would happen to, like, she was a woman now, but what happens to them, their reputation. And just look at what happened to Christine Blasey Ford, I want to say. I know I'm messing up on her name. What happened to her when she came forward about Kavanaugh? And she didn't even come forward. She was outed. And just what happened to her reputation, the fact that she had to keep on moving, that she was getting death threats and harassed and all this sort of stuff. And meanwhile, Kavanaugh was fine to be a blithering mess on the stand, crying and talking about beers and how it's okay to like beers and stuff. And meanwhile, her entire life was just an upheaval. Who wants to risk that? And for him to then not even face any accountability for what he did. Mozart, she's implying there are circumstances where it would be okay. Super Strike saying, I went back to college in my late 30s, and there were people in my class in their early 20s, and they came across as kids to me. It's wild. The older I get, the younger they look, you know? I remember somebody from a theater group I was in saying, you know, now that he's older with kids and stuff, it's mind-blowing how young they look and whatnot. Because he says, like, he remembers when he was like 14 thinking, yeah, I'm ready for sex, I'm old enough and stuff like that. And then he saw a full photo of himself as a 14-year-old. He's like, no, you were not ready. You were not ready. No, that is wrong. Like, that's why you need adults in the room to make sure that kids are aware of all this, because at that age, they might think, yeah, I thought I was old and mature enough for it. And all my girlfriends thought the same thing and whatnot. But looking back on it now, like driving past the high school as kids are coming out, I'm like, they're in elementary school, right? Like they look so much younger now that I'm older. But when you're that age, you know, somebody who's 20 looks like a 40-year-old. It's weird how that works. And again, that's why it's so disgusting when a 40-year-old or 30-year-old or even somebody in their late 20s will look at a 16-year-old and think, no, they look like children. They look like children. Like, even when I've been on college campuses for conferences and stuff of that sort, and university campuses around here for a talk on a subject or something. And one time we had a break in between the two talks, and we went to the cafeteria with all the food court and stuff like that. And I'm looking around, it's like some of them are still wearing pajamas while they're doing. I'm like, they're so young. How? Like, just wow. Let's see. Yeah, I believe those videos were right when she came out from Fox BCAT. BCAT, imagine watching your attacker be elected to the presidency twice. Yeah. No, I would totally understand why anyone who is a victim of Donald Trump would keep their mouth shut after he became president. Oh my God. It was difficult before that to come forward, to go up against a powerful man. After he became president, not a chance. I wouldn't see it. Like, I totally understand why they would not say anything. BCAT, I definitely thought I was grown at 14. Yeah. We think we're adults at 14, just like a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old in junior high doesn't like being called a kid anymore. I'm not a kid. Yes, you are. You are. You are. And especially when we get into high school or around like, you know, older kids and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, we're so adult now. We're grown up, or get our driver's license at 16. And it's like, yeah, we're like totally adults now. No, you're not. You're not. Super Strike 9. Yep. Looking back at my grade 9 yearbook, I thought I looked mature at the time. Looking at now, I was a child. Yeah. Ponzi coin, you know you're old when your doctor looks younger than you. Mozart, I started hanging out with college kids when I was 14. Nothing improper ever happened, sexually at least. Drugs and drinking were another story. Yeah. I always, you see, I don't like kids now. And when I was a kid, I didn't like kids. The autistic in me. I didn't get along well with kids. And so I usually made friends with people who were older, other than like my immediate friend circle, who were friends by convenience type thing. Your school friends because they're in the same classes as you and whatnot. But I used to have better conversations with people who were older. Mozart, I was going to clubs and everything. It was crazy. Oh, hopefully you got out of that okay. But yeah, going to show that ad now that I was just talking about, and then get into some other things related to it. So, Megyn Kelly is like, there's a difference between 15 and 5 and whatnot. Well, they are still all kids. And this is the ad that came out about it that is really hard hitting. I hope the music isn't going to make this. It's always one of those things. This is part of the reason why I didn't want to add it to the long live stream I did, and why I didn't want to talk about this during this space, was I have no idea if this music is going to get this video in trouble.
I suffered so much pain.
So much pain.
So much pain.
I suffered so much pain. I was 14 years old.
I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17.
14 years old.
This is me.
This was me.
This is me. When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This is me.
They look like children. There's no mistaking them. There's no looking at them and being like, well, maybe they're just a young-looking 18-year-old. No, they look like children.
When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
There are about 1,000 of us.
There's about 1,000 of us. Okay, there should be a lineup outside of a court right now of all the people involved with this. They should be named, shamed, and tried. The fact that only like Epstein and Ghislaine are mentioned about this, and I guess Prince Edward or whatever, Prince Andrew, whatever his name is, the prince, have kind of been the only ones named. No, all of them need to be in front of a fucking judge right now.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows. It's time to shine a light into the darkness.
Five administrations. See, it's not just Republicans, it's also Democrats. I don't give a fuck what their politics are, what their body of work is. If they were involved with this, they need to be taken out of society. So call your Congress member and demand they release all of the Epstein files. Go to worldwithoutexploitation.org for more information. I'm going to do these slightly out of the order that I had, but here's a TikTok where it's like, here's a 14-year-old having to explain to Megyn Kelly what a 14-year-old is.
Hey Megyn Kelly, I'm Eloise and I'm 14 years old. I wasn't even going to say anything because the topic is an adult one. My mom even made a video about it yesterday because we didn't feel it was an appropriate topic for a child to speak about.
And that's a harsh reality right there too. Like having 14-year-olds even talk about, this sort of thing feels kind of off. Talking about like what the age of consent is and stuff like this. This is not something that should have to cross their mind. They should be well protected enough in the society that they don't feel like they have to tell an adult that their behavior is wrong.
But after hearing you go on camera and explain that Epstein wasn't into 8-year-olds, just the barely legal type like 15, I realized you might need an actual reality check from a literal child. So let me help you out. Megyn, people in my grade are turning 15 right now. Some of us still have baby faces. Some of us still have braces.
I'm pretty sure all of them still have baby faces. It's just me.
Some of us still call our parents when we're scared at night. Some of us still look like middle schoolers because we basically are. And the fact that a grown woman needs a teenager to explain that is honestly terrifying. Here's the part you seem...
Again, Megyn Kelly doesn't need a teenager to tell her that. She knows that. She has said it in previous videos. Her choice. It is a choice to say what she said and changed her mind about it because she's trying to protect the people in power that she likes. She knows. She doesn't need this explained to her. She knows.
Confused about. Under federal law, anyone under 18 is a child. No asterisk. No, but they hit puberty. No, older kids don't count. Anyone under 18 is a child. You said you were just giving facts, but here's the real fact. What you said wasn't factual. It was minimizing. It was making abuse sound like a technicality. And Megyn, here's the part you really need to hear. If a 14-year-old has to get on the internet and explain to a grown adult with national platform that children are children and there's no age where abuse suddenly becomes less bad, then the problem isn't confusion, it's corruption. Because kids my age aren't supposed to be the ones correcting you. We're not supposed to be the moral compass in a room full of adults who should have known better. But here we are. If my voice makes you uncomfortable, good, it should. Because the minute adults start defending predators by debating the age of a child, you're not protecting the truth. You're protecting the predator. And you shouldn't need a freshman to tell you that.
Because then you also have shit takes like this one from Kevin O'Leary, unfortunately very Canadian. I would like to disown him. If he would like to just go and live in the States full time, I'm cool with that. If he would like to totally, rescind his Canadian citizenship, I'm fine with that. I'm fine. But yeah, again, this is just, men look at this differently, these powerful men. And it's like, the real victims are the men. It's like when that one college student was attacked and she had to write a letter. And the judge let him off because he's just a young man and his life will be ruined because he decided to sexually assault someone behind a dumpster. You know, you got to think of the guy in this situation. There are far too many other men like that because they see themselves in that boy, in that man. And the fact that they see themselves there as opposed to looking at that being like, what the fuck was he doing? That was so wrong. No, he absolutely deserves to go to prison. It's a self-report. If you look at that young man who sexually assaulted someone behind that garbage dump and think to yourself, oh, I'm sure he's a good guy. He just made a mistake. It's a self-report. And the fact that Kevin O'Leary here is like, you know, you got to look at the people who are really hurt in this. Again, kind of self-reporting on yourself.
Let's just look at facts, because, I mean, everybody has a...
And I hate how these right-wingers are like, let's look at the facts that I'm going to completely make up out of whole cloth. You know, these aren't real facts. They're just the facts. Like, I'm stating it because I want it to be a fact. Megyn Kelly has her fact of barely legal 15-year-olds, which is not a fact. They just want to sound authoritative on things, so they'll just state things as a fact when they're not.
Let's just look at facts, because, I mean, everybody has a political position on this. Epstein's still dead tonight. Still dead.
When he said, let's look at the fact because it's an opinion. Yeah. Anyway.
Political position on this. Epstein's still dead tonight. Still dead. All the people that have been really hurt by this actually were caught lying in a scandal, including a member of the royal family who was stripped of his titles, all that.
Excuse me, what? The people who were really hurt were the ones who were caught lying? Not the fact that they were lying and bad people then. What were they lying about? What did they do? Oh, this poor royalty was stripped of his title. Oh no, he was the one, he's the real victim in the situation. All the people who were caught lying, they're the victims.
Titles, all that.
Say that again? All the people that were really hurt?
Yeah.
The people that were really hurt are the women, Kevin.
Yeah, and I'm
the
not...
young girls.
I don't think having
who want
sex...
closure and want truth and want
transparency.
transparency.
Or are you got something
yeah, but
more to say?
the people hurt is not
Thank
Prince
goodness
Andrew.
you're here.
Hold on. But that's ridiculous for you to say that the person hurt is Prince Andrew.
Kevin, is that what you were?
I'm trying to finish a thought. Work with me on this.
I was trying to finish a thought. Work with me on this. No, she's totally right here. No, the people who were hurt were the victims, the girls, the children, the women, all of them that were trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. They're the real victims, not the men who were lying about it.
I'm trying to finish a thought. Work with me on this, okay?
Make sense though, please.
No, I'm going to help you so much tonight. So at the end of...
What a condescending asshole. Oh, I'm going to work with you, little girl, on this, little lady. Going to mansplain to you why the men who are lying about this, who were potential perpetrators of this, trying to cover up their crimes, why they're the real victims. Just work with me on this, little lady. Let's see. Okay, that gets into something else. So I saw this tweet here, the quote tweet gif here, and I'm like, I feel this to my core. So somebody had tweeted out, if you can get pregnant, you're not a child. And that was actually community noted by saying the youngest person to survive birth was a 5-year-old. Oh my God. The ability to get pregnant only means that your body has started to menstruate, which speaks to no other aspect of physical or emotional development. So Doug Carter saying, if you can get pregnant, you're not a child. So somebody quote tweeted him, I feel this. If you can get pregnant, you're not a yeah. I feel this one. I hope this isn't going to get me copyright strict in this GIF here, but yeah. Yeah. What? Oh, don't worry about finishing that thought there. No, we'll finish it for you. Oh. I was 11 when I could have became pregnant. I was a child. That's when you're 11. And we all, I don't know if everyone remembers the first time they had their cycle, but I sure do, because it was a thing. It happened. No, I wasn't at home. I was with my aunt for a summer camp, a music camp. I was playing guitar at the time. I don't play guitar anymore. I don't remember how. So I was at a music camp playing guitar. And you know how you sit with the guitar with your legs kind of so the guitar sits in between type thing. And I happened to be wearing white pants. And you see, the thing is that I wasn't the one who noticed that my period had started. I wasn't the first one to notice. Because I had a lot of cramping at the time that week, but that was also normal because the water in the city that my aunt lived in was different than the water than the city that I lived in. So often it would, cause like gas and things of that sort. So I didn't think anything of it. And then, I wasn't the one who noticed. And the camp counselors were freaked out because I don't think this happened to them very often, that a child that young would suddenly get this. And they were unprepared. And the men, I guess, went to a first aid kit and found a pad, and they gave it to a woman to pass to me under the bathroom stall. And it was so old, this pad. It came with a safety pin because you were supposed to safety pin it to your underwear. Until finally somebody else, I guess another camp, one of the women camp counselors or female camp counselors had a pad in their purse and finally passed that under the washroom stall to me. Yeah. Great times. But yeah, I was 11. And so let's see, 11. That puts me in what grade? Or it's like, what, grade 6? I was 14 in grade 9, so I'd be 13 in grade 7. I'd be 12. Yeah. No. I was 14 in grade 9, so I'd be 13 in grade 8. Be 12 in grade 7. So yeah, I was in grade 6. Or summer camp, so I might have just finished grade 6. I was a child. And the idea that just because you have your period, you're suddenly ready to give birth. I didn't know anything about anything back then. There's no possible way I could have been a parent. None. I still wasn't even in junior high. I hadn't, like, you don't know anything. The idea that these fundamentalist religious folks want to put the responsibility of child rearing on somebody just because they're capable of having kids. No. That is just so wrong. So wrong. At that age, I still like coloring in coloring books, watching cartoons on the weekend, playing with my stuffed animals, having made up conversations with them, dreaming about being an astronaut type thing. Drawing my unicorns and whatnot. Like, no. But the youngest is a 5-year-old. My God. Like, I don't even know how that is physically possible. Hello, bad lefty. Yeah, the real victim? Bad lefty, when can pedos catch a break? Yeah. Yeah, B-Cat was 10. Yeah, no, I was 11, and I didn't even notice. Hello, Monope. Mozart, that happened to a girl at my junior high on a field trip day, also wearing white pants. Yeah. I would imagine a 5-year-old didn't it would have had to have been a cesarean. I don't think it'd be possible. Like the hips aren't physically developed enough. I would imagine that it had to be a cesarean. Now we're going to go on a bit of a history trip here in Canada, because this kind of leads into something else. So this person was quote tweeting, "Those sex education and safety programs in school, the far right hate educated this little girl enough last that she immediately told her mother what he did to her. I read this article, don't. It's horrific. A PDF ballet teacher jailed for 8 years for evil abuse of 2 young girls." It's a horrific story. But one of the girls he abused had just been taught about this sort of thing, and that's why she knew what had happened to her and went to her parents, and that's how he got caught. And somebody was quote tweeting that saying, "So sick of people's response to this being the parents should be teaching that, not schools. Most abusers are the parents. They're not going to teach their children how to report them." Yes. Like that's the thing about these right-wingers, and it's like, oh no, trans women in a washroom and stuff of that sort. No, the vast majority of this abuse happens in the home. By relatives, parents. The vast majority of child abuse is done by the parents. Like just because somebody is a parent doesn't by default make them a good parent or a good person. And it is absolutely vital that schools teach this so that children are aware of what is right, what is wrong. We should not leave it to the parents because there are too many fucking moron parents. Too many religious fundamentalists that don't want their children to know, and that knowledge is power and that knowledge keeps them safe. And to me, any parent that wants to withhold this knowledge from their child, again, needs to have their hard drive checked. You see, back here in Ontario, there was a bit of an uproar about it because back in 2015, Kathleen Wynne, the Liberal Premier of Ontario at the time, thought, you know what, we should probably update the sex curriculum because it hadn't been updated since 1998. So we're going to go and travel a bit back in time in Ontario. So here, this is from an article in 2015, January 2015. Wynne praises girls' push for consent and sex ed curriculum. So this is from the CBC. So part of the reason why the sex curriculum was even updated when it was because a couple of girls, teenagers, not even barely teenagers, they were 13, I believe, said, you know, can you please have this in the school for us, please? It's kind of needed. So to end grape culture, we must create a consent culture. My address is not a yes. So Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne praised the important work of 2 Toronto teens who have launched a campaign to have issues surrounding consent included in the province's new sex education curriculum. Wynne was reacting to an interview with 13-year-old grade 8 students, Leah Valentine and Tessa Hill, on CBC's Radio Metro Morning Friday. The girls spoke to host Matt Galloway about their We Give Consent campaign and petition, which aims to get consent made part of Ontario's sex education curriculum, which is being revamped. Great interview this morning, wrote Wynne in a Twitter message. Thanks for your important work. Let's talk. This week, the province announced plans to revamp Ontario's sex education curriculum, which currently makes no mention about consent between sex partners. Kind of important. And the thing is that you can be teaching consent at a much, much younger age, and it doesn't have to just be about sex. It can be about just bodily autonomy, your rights to yourself, to the idea of forcing children to hug a relative. That, to me, is wrong, because a child should be able to consent to the hug. But all the time you see parents or relatives and family being like, oh, just give them a hug, or they're getting hugs when they don't want it. And those hugs aren't, sexual. It's a way that they show affection, but it's not affection if you're forcing it onto the child. And so the child should be able to consent to that sort of thing. And so consent should be taught at a much younger age. Or just the way adults like to touch children, but not in sexual ways. Like they want to pull on their hair or do all this weird stuff, or like with pregnant women or people, and how they like to pat the belly of pregnant people. I don't get that. But a lot of people seem to think that if somebody is pregnant, that suddenly their autonomy isn't strictly theirs, or if they're a child, their autonomy isn't strictly theirs. And so, an adult might take a child by their hand to move them out of the way or something of that sort. And it's like, no. We need to be talking about consent at a much younger age, because it covers a lot of different topics, not just about sex. And it absolutely needs to be taught about sex. Because again, the younger they're taught about these sorts of things, then the more aware they are of when somebody is trying to violate that consent. So back to the article. Valentine said the current curriculum leaves kids unprepared. Basically, they want to teach sex ed is basically what they teach in sex ed is don't have sex, and if you do have sex, wear condoms, she said. Kids are educated in a way that doesn't teach them realistically. Kids and teens will have sex eventually at some point in their life. She said that omitting consent issues from curriculum means kids don't respect their partner's boundaries and they don't know how to have safe sex. Curriculum is out of date age of social media, smartphones. The curriculum has not been updated since 1998, long before the rise of social media and smartphones. The province has said it wants to teach students about healthy relationships in this technology-driven world. The amount of backlash and uproar that happened because they wanted to update the sex curriculum from, again, religious fundamentalists, and it wasn't just Christians. This is one of those times where it's like fundamentalist Muslims, fundamentalist Christians, Catholics, like all of these religions that, seem to not want to teach their children about sex, all got together and united behind not wanting to update the sex curriculum when it desperately needed to be. All of them need to have their hard drives checked. Like, part of it is they want to keep this idea of purity around sex, of like, save yourself from marriage or else you're going to destroy yourself in your religion. It is such an unhealthy way of looking at sex. A coalition of parents, teachers, and health experts says 2 years ago, Ontario's sex ed lessons needed an urgent overhaul to educate today's tech-savvy students. Hill and Valentine started their campaign after a school project that examined grape culture in the media and need to talk about and create a culture of consent, particularly among young people. Students need to learn consent is affirmative and enthusiastic, said Valentine. It's Yes, please, from both people participating. It's about respecting your partner's boundaries. Young people will have sex despite teaching abstinence in the classroom, reads the petition the girls have posted at change.org. So most important thing is to educate us and other young people about consent. So far, the petition has gathered more than 2,280 signatures, and it was added into the curriculum despite the outrage of parents. How dare you teach our children about consent? And then some people are saying, well, that should be taught by the parent. But as we already touched on, the parents who don't teach their kids about consent are the parents that are most likely the ones violating that consent, and they don't want their child to know that they're being violated. I tried to find this video that I remember. It stuck out in my head at the time, too, of a woman saying, how dare you teach this sort of thing to our children? I don't want my little girl going to the washroom in elementary school and being raped by one of the boys, simply because they were trying to teach consent in school. She thought that this would lead to her little daughter being assaulted by the boys in her class. But I did find some other videos from back then and stuff and articles. So Ontario parents opposed to sex ed changes threatened to pull kids from school. Again, any parent that would pull their kid from school because of this needs to have their hard drive checked. Oh no, that's, yeah, Ontario parents opposing. It's this. I know that there's some videos I wanted to watch. I don't know if this is one of the videos that we're going to watch. Let's quickly find out.
Well, some parents in Ontario are threatening to keep their kids home from school tomorrow. It's their way of protesting proposed changes to the province's new sex education curriculum.
You want to teach my child about consent? Fuck no, I'm going to keep them away from school. I so much adamantly do not want them to learn about consent or what sex is. I don't want them to know anything about it, so much so I'm going to keep them away from school. There is something wrong with those parents. Not everyone should be a parent. You know, like schools absolutely should be teaching this at age appropriate levels, and parents should have absolutely no say, and they should not be allowed to take their children out of it.
As the CBC's Natalie Collada reports, it's the latest move by angry parents who now say they're willing to take their protest even further.
It's my choice! It's my choice! It may be a week.
Does she even know the irony of her saying, it's my choice? Because she's saying, it's my choice, but her child doesn't get to say the same thing. Because her child won't learn about it. And a lot of these are religious fundamentalists from all stripes, and they believe in parental rights versus parental responsibilities. They believe they own their children and that they can force their children to be the ideal of what they want them to be, and they don't encourage their children to be autonomous human beings, you know, to have their own personality and beliefs and identity. They want to impose an identity on their children. And this is why, part of the reason why I'm so against religious institutions, because this is so systemic in all religious institutions of trying to impose an identity on a child as opposed to letting them explore who they are. And the idea of saying, it's my choice, what my child learns, again, is it's wrong. No, your child should learn the truth, facts, science, history, education, biology, all of that, because the more knowledge the children have, the safer they are, the more that they're aware, the more that they can protect themselves.
Weekend, but hundreds of parents are focused on what will be happening in Ontario's classrooms. Yada Malik and Lillian Baul insist the proposed changes to Ontario's sexual education curriculum is too much too soon for their children.
Are they going to keep
a lot of these women that say it's too much, it's too soon, basically don't believe there's any appropriate time other than the night before their wedding. That's it. It's like, there's no age appropriate time to learn about this until, you know, the night before they're married so that they know how to have sex on their wedding night. And that's it. That's it. They shouldn't know anything about it beforehand. And they'll never learn anything about it beforehand. Yeah, right.
Our cultural teachings Are they going to keep religious beliefs once exposed to those teachings?
No, in public schools, you don't get to keep that. If you want to teach cultural beliefs at home, that's your business. But in a public school, they get to learn facts. Real facts, not the facts that, Kevin O'Leary and Megyn Kelly like to talk about, but actual facts and stats and what consent are. It's a public school. And she'll pull her kid out. She does pull her kid out of that. But again, check her hard drive if that's the case. I worry about the safety of these children. Of course, this is like 10 years ago. So who knows what's happened since.
If you introduce the concept that early, you're really telling them something that may not be natural.
Some parents
She was talking about sexual orientation there.
are so upset they plan to take their children out of school on Monday in protest. It's not exactly clear how many, but the estimates put the numbers between 6,000 and 10,000 students throughout Ontario. Ontario hasn't updated its sex ed curriculum since 1998. The new one will allow discussions about same-sex relationships, gender identity, and as early as grade 1, proper names for body parts. Ontario's premier says the new curriculum brings the province up to speed with most others across the country.
I have not had one young person speak to me in opposition of the curriculum.
It's
quite often the children want to know, because again, they know it will keep them safe. Children know they're going to experiment, so they're going to want to do it safely. Like, generally speaking, the children want to have this knowledge. They want to know the truth about situations and whatnot. And so we should be teaching them. Like, it's just, everyone can think back to when they were a teenager. We were all horny little kids back then. The more knowledge you have, the better.
getting youth used to talking about sexuality.
Nadine Thornhill is a sexuality educator and mother. She says talking with children early is key.
We have kids in school who will in the future be in same-sex relationships. And so I think it's really important to integrate that into the curriculum and to normalize that.
The Peel District School Board says misinformation about the new curriculum is being spread throughout the community, with letters like this suggesting students will be asked to look at sexy magazines and to experiment with anal sex. The school board says that's wrong.
I think that
the amount of misinformation that was going around about this back in the day, it was obscene. Like, it was just so much like fear-mongering, scare tactics, trying to make it seem like they were going to be showing like graphic pornography and stuff in the classroom and whatnot. And it's like, no. Like, this is age-appropriate stuff that they wanted to be teaching children. No, none of that would have been happening. And this is from 10 years ago, but we're still seeing it today. You know, with the new DEI stuff, or the accusing queer folks of being groomers and taking out all the books related to queer issues out of schools, the book banning and stuff like that. This is all the same. It's never gone away. It just changes every now and then how they're doing these things.
they're confusing some of the things that are in the curriculum.
As for Malik and Baul, they're gathering signatures on their own proposed changes to the new curriculum and have sent it to the premier. But Baul is going further. She plans to pull her son out of the public school system for good. Natalie Collada, CBC News.
Little boys need to be learning about what consent is, because too much the onus is put on the little girls to learn how to, or be taught that they should be avoiding it and this and that and the other thing. Little boys definitely need to be learning about consent. Now, this was also something that was very prevalent during this time. Homophobia motivated some to protest Ontario's new sex ed curriculum. And even back at the time, I believe this to be the case. A lot of people were against the sex ed curriculum because it was proposed by Kathleen Wynne's government. And Kathleen Wynne is a lesbian. And so they thought this was part of the gay agenda, the queer agenda, that they were trying to make all kids gay through this new update to the sex education, even though, like they were saying, it was like, what, 20 years needed for an update? You know, the last time it was in 1998, before cell phones and internet and all of that sort of stuff. It needed to be updated, but since it was coming from a gay premier, suddenly it was suspect. Suddenly, oh no, it's just because she wants all of the kids to be gay. And the amount of harassment that she received over it too was just absolutely astonishing. So Premier Kathleen Wynne says she has no doubt homophobia motivated some of the hundreds of people who protest Ontario's new sex education curriculum this week. Wynne, who is gay, says she looked at the protests on the front lawn of Queen's Park on social media comments and revised curriculum and concluded some of the opposition is homophobic. Many of those at Tuesday's protest said the government was introducing ideas like same-sex relationships and masturbation too early for some kids, but others brandished signs with more extreme messages. Wynne told the Canadian Press that there's no doubt in her mind that homophobia is part of the motivating drive behind some of the protests. Wynne said that people will have to draw their own conclusions about why Progressive Conservative leadership candidate Mont McNaughton said she is not qualified to propose a new sex ed curriculum. So the leader of the opposition saying, yeah, no, Kathleen Wynne, she's not qualified. She's not in the position to be doing this because she's gay. That's it. McNaughton was fuming after Wynne suggested his question were homophobic, calling it the lowest thing a premier could say about another legislator. Yes, calling someone homophobic when they're being blatantly homophobic is the worst thing you can do. And here's another video about the opposition and stuff to this. And we get to hear from some parents and just, again, absolutely all of these parents need to have their hard drives checked. They need to have their children, although their children are probably grown up now, need to have wellness checks. Like the parents that are like this, it's their children the most. I want interventions so that the children know that what's happening, you know, this type of education is wrong type. Like they need to know these things. It is just, there were so many times growing up where, you know, my stepfather and family and the conservative stuff and the propaganda we watch on TV all the time. I think back to it and it's just the way sex was treated, especially for kids. The idea that once a young girl was raped, then she lost all of her value when it came to marriage and stuff, and how that was the biggest shame. Not the fact that she was assaulted, but now that she was less likely to get married. That was on some of the propaganda shows that we watched.
Down sex and education.
Again?
Just skip past this.
Okay. In the past is back.
So this is when Doug Ford came into office. One of the first things he did was rescind the sex education. So it went back to the 1998 version because he's like, nope, no, parents didn't want it. A year later, it got changed, but there's a year gap now. So he was forced to update it, but the first thing he did when he got in office was to totally throw away the sex curriculum that Kathleen Wynne's government had put forward. And because of that, it defaulted back to the 1998 version.
With the election of Doug Ford as Progressive Conservative leader. Ontario's health and physical education curriculum right here, which contains a component called sexual health, has been taught in schools for almost 3 years now. Doug Ford says he will first repeal, then review the curriculum. His major objection to it?
Yeah, we're just going to get rid of it first and then maybe look over it.
We're not consulted on this education system, on the sex ed education, I can guarantee you.
Oh, parents were consulted. They were. Lots of parents were consulted. He's lying.
Premier Kathleen Wynne disagrees.
It's just not true. Parents were consulted. Psychologists, psychiatrists, police, people who live in communities and are concerned about the safety of young people were consulted.
Perhaps the more accurate question is, were enough parents consulted? And your answer likely depends.
Yeah. were enough parents consulted? It's like, did enough of the parents who agreed with the progressive conservatives, were they consulted in Doug Ford's view? You know, the ones who agreed with him.
Depends on whether or not you agree with the curriculum. And there are many parents who don't.
We say no! We say no!
All of these parents that are afraid of indoctrination, that's exactly what they're doing to their children. You know, to deny your child education and knowledge, you're indoctrinating them. Like, that's part of the indoctrination tactics, is to deny them knowledge. So whenever I see parents trying to deny their children knowledge, it's because they're trying to indoctrinate them into something.
3 years ago, they came out in force to Queen's Park to express their displeasure. What specifically is in the curriculum they oppose? I took a copy into the crowd and received an earful. Cultural values, beliefs, gender identity, and sexual orientation. That's too much for a grade 3 student?
In my opinion, whatever it's in here, it's too much.
So tell me why a 6-year-old boy needs to learn about vagina and vulva.
Why should a 6-year-old boy not have the proper words for body parts?
Yep. The idea that they shouldn't even learn the actual names of body parts paints, like, it shrouds that in shame to begin with. And I've had family members with young kids that would teach them the word penis because they had boys, but when it came to the girls, it was the JJ. You know, they didn't want to teach their children the word vagina or vulva. And their response was, well, I don't want, you know, my son going around saying vagina and stuff of that sort. But it's okay for him to go around saying the word penis. Again, you're shrouding it in shame. This idea that you can't even name it. The idea that a 6-year-old shouldn't even know the proper name of a body part. It is ridiculous. And the idea that it's somehow wrong for them to have this knowledge, that by having the knowledge that this is called a vagina means that something bad is going to happen. You know, that's the parents that are just too in the head about sex, that the instant children learn about body parts, they're going to want to have sex. That's an issue ingrained in the parents. I don't know who this newscaster is because, again, this is from like 2018, so I haven't seen him around since, but I do kind of like his response to this.
To learn about vagina and vulva.
Why should a 6-year-old boy not have the proper words for body parts?
He doesn't need body parts. He's a 6-year-old boy. I'm not talking body parts. I'm talking genitals.
I'm not talking about body parts. I'm talking about genitals. Genitals are body parts.
Why are you shaming me? I feel no shame. Apart from concern,
I like that. I like that from the newscaster. I feel no shame.
About teaching too much too soon, there is also this.
For starters, this curriculum was developed in part by convicted child pornographer Ben Levin.
That's PC leadership candidate Tanya Granick-Allen, whose supporters were crucial in electing Doug Ford as leader, explaining another major complaint about the curriculum, Ben Levin. Now, seen here with his lawyer, Ben Levin is a convicted child pornographer.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have had him in the government. That doesn't help. That does not help. Mm-mm. But apparently he wasn't the one that actually made the curriculum, from my understanding.
Who, prior to his arrest, served as deputy minister in the Ontario Ministry of Education. Levin's connection to the curriculum is enough to warrant that it be pulled, say opponents. The premier explains it this way.
But deputy ministers don't write curriculum.
With Doug Ford now in charge.
Still that. That is problematic. Like that one. Huh. Still, he didn't write the curriculum, but ooh, that one, that I could definitely see how the conservatives could latch onto that.
Charge of the PCs. These issues are all now back on the table. And come election time this June, sex and education will once again be a hot topic in Ontario.
And here's the change. So again, this is from 2019. So there's a year gap, like there's a few year gap in there from when Doug Ford reversed the curriculum to, you know, the updated, and the updated is very similar. He didn't need to do that. It was just all for show. It was all for his base. It was all because he hated Kathleen Wynne. There's probably some homophobia going on in there. But this is from Global News again. Ford government's new sex ed curriculum is pretty much the same, education experts say. They just used it to campaign on, to rage bait with. And then they got rid of it so that he could follow through with that commitment. But then it's like, yeah, we'll bring it back, but we'll also allow parents to take their children out of it. How about that? How about that? So the parents who take their children out of them, those are the children who probably need it the most. Again, check the hard drives of all the parents who say they want to take their kids out of sex education. Check their fucking hard drives.
Curriculum going to look like. Today, early this morning, they put out the curriculum online at 6 a.m. Doesn't look a whole lot different. Yes, there are some enhancements, but social conservatives were calling for the premier to really do something about some of the topics that were taught in this curriculum. That's why they launched months of consultations. And at the end of it, all of those topics pretty much still in this curriculum.
So he couldn't say that Kathleen Wynne was right, that she actually did consult people, because after all the money he spent, and it'll be touched on here, to have new consultants go with this, and it turns out that it's more or less the same, tells you that Kathleen Wynne did do it right. So he was absolutely lying when he said that parents weren't consulted. He was lying. Even back then. Shocking, I know.
Let's just go through a bit of the details right now. In grade 1, students are going to learn about the concepts of body image, consent, online safety, and cyberbullying. Then in grade 6, they'll learn about opioid addiction as well. And the real debate, as I mentioned, has been over sex ed. Under the new curriculum, lessons on sexual orientation are actually going to start earlier in grade 5 as opposed to grade 6. Gender identity, though, is going to be moved to grade 8 as opposed to being introduced in grade 6. Now, we did speak to the Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, the new minister, and also education critic for the NDP, Merritt Stiles. Here's what they said this morning.
You know, I think what we've done is we fulfilled our commitment.
And just a reminder, when he was in college, he did a mock slave auction as part of the frat boy party he was at.
To the people of Ontario to listen to parents. In the first iteration under Kathleen Wynne, I think the great challenge was that parents felt that they weren't listened to. I would argue that this version...
Yeah, I would argue that the parents felt like they weren't listened to, even though we basically came to the same conclusions in ours. We had to change it a little bit so that we could say that ours is better. Yeah.
reflects the priorities of parents. It builds upon former versions, but really makes transformative improvements.
They rolled back a curriculum by 20 years. So we have a whole lost year where some children, many children in this province will not have been able to talk about really important issues like cyberbullying, consent, gender identity.
All right, so Travis, we saw protests, you remember, on the lawn of Queen's Park back in 2015 when the Liberals introduced their curriculum. Then again, more recently, when the Ford government scrapped it. Now seeing this version, was it all worth it?
Well, what they tried to do really is strike a balance here, because the Premier did say repeatedly he was going to repeal the sex ed curriculum. What they did is they say that they listened to parents. How much that costs? Well, that has been an ongoing debate with myself in the Premier's office. It's cost millions of dollars
millions of dollars to come up with basically the same thing.
With the implementation, once you factor in that cost, the actual document, and those consultations. So was it worth it? Well, the minister certainly feels that way. The Premier does as well. Teachers, though, they've got only about 2 weeks or so to look at this and get this, under their belt, because there's about 320 pages or so, not that much time before school starts.
Okay. Speaking of knowledge and arming yourself with it, I've seen, let's just go back to the screen for a second. There's just a couple more things to go through. I've seen even Canadian lefty content creators talk about the age of consent in Canada being 18. And that before that, you know, there's the close age clauses and stuff of that sort. And I hate to break the news to you. The age of consent in Canada, and again, since this is under criminal law, it's across the board, is only 16. And that was raised to 16 from 14 in, the year long ago, 2008. There was a story back before that increase in age of a grade 9 student, and this was at the high school that I attended, was in a sexual relationship with the music teacher. She was 14. The only thing that made that illegal was the fact that he was her teacher. That was it. The fact that, you know, this adult male was abusing, because 14-year-old can't fucking consent. That wasn't the issue. The issue was he was in a position of authority over her. So they decided to raise it to 16. It needs to go higher. And at the time, there was a lot of pushback against that from conservatives, shockingly, saying, oh, well, you know, if you raise the age of consent, if somebody's then, you know, in a relationship with, like, goddamn, I can't even remember the argument they were trying to do about why it was bad to raise the age of consent. But they were making some sort of argument that certain perpetrators won't be able to be held accountable or something. That people might be afraid to say something if it was raised. Like, it was all this bullshit. As far as I'm concerned, it should be raised to 20. It's just, or even until, you know, when the brain is fully developed. So, you know, let's make it 25 with close age clauses before that, you know, from 18 to 25, there's close age clauses. And before that, you know, super close age clauses for teens who are experimenting with each other. But other than that, yeah, no, the age of consent needs to be raised far higher than 16 in this country. But here's the actual information on it. So this is from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police brochure, Respect Sexual Consent. So we scooch down here. The absence of no does not mean yes. You need active consent. The person initiating sexual activity needs to take responsibility, reasonable steps to establish consent. If you are unsure, stop and ask, is this okay? Recognize nonverbal signs of refusal, such as avoiding eye contact. Crying, yeah, that would be a big indicator. Pushing away, shaking head, no. Silence, not being responsive. This is the type of stuff that would go under the consent thing that those teachers or those parents didn't want taught. Things like this, they didn't want taught. If someone doesn't give you consent for a sexual activity, stop. Law on consent. The legal age of consent in Canada is 16 years old. So that means, again, that guy down the street who is 48 can get into the relationship with a 16-year-old so long as he doesn't have a power, like a position of authority over her. Also, which then complicates this, and I touched on this when we were talking about something else on this channel, when the conservatives were outraged that the Supreme Court decided that it was a fixed, what's the term for unflexible sentencing in cases? There's a term for that. Mandatory sentencing. That the judge got rid of mandatory sentencing when it came to sexual material and things of that sort. And that's because there's this weird gray area here where under the age of 18, you're not allowed to produce sexual content. So if you're a 16-year-old in a legal relationship with a 48-year-old, you can't share images of yourself with that 48-year-old, or else it's child exploitation material. Here's a good fix. Just make it so that, the age of consent is at a bare minimum 18. Maybe level those up to each other. That would make more sense. So, and this is where it gets to the close age exemptions. So exemptions. Persons under 16 years can have consensual sex with someone close in age. So 12 to 13-year-olds, 2 years age difference. 14 to 15-year-olds, 5-year age difference. And so that's in the upward direction, by the way. just to be super clear about that, that can't be like, a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old. No. It's the upward direction. So a 14-year-old can consent with someone who is 19. A 15-year-old can consent with someone who is 20. But from 12 to 13, it's only 2 years. So at most, a 13-year-old could consent with someone who is 15. These exceptions only apply if the older person is not in a position of authority or trust, and there is no exploitation or dependency. So can't be a foster parent, can't be a teacher, can't be the camp counselor, pastor, all of that sort of stuff. Individuals under 18-year-old cannot consent to sex where the other consenting party is in a position of trust, authority, or there is a dependency on that person. There is an active activity of exploitation, i.e. pornography, sex work, prostitution. So under 18, again, you can't legally share photos of yourself with your partner. You have the right to withdraw consent at any time during sexual activity. Even if you've consented to start sexual act with someone, you have the right to stop at any time. Consenting to one kind of sexual activity does not automatically mean consenting to another. If you don't want to do something, you have the right to say stop. And then what to do if you've been assaulted and things of that sort, what police will want to know. So I will toss this into the SandBox for people if you would like to finish reading that. But I will just put down here for getting help if you need help. Kids Help Phone, 1-800-668-6868. Canadian Resource Center for Victims of Crime, 1-877-232-2610. And there's also Ending Violence Association of Canada. So you can contact those if you need more help. There's also, what's this? And in Canada, the suicide prevention crisis line is 988. So last thing to kind of go over here is, again, a little bit more of the history. So age of consent reform in Canada refers to the cultural and legal discussions in Canada regarding the age of consent. So in May 2008, the Canadian government, led by Stephen Harper, of all people, who is ultra-conservative, passed Bill C-22, introduced in February 2007 and revised in August 2007, to raise the age of consent from 14 to 16, while creating a close age exemption, and that we got over. So Section 159 of the Criminal Code set the age of consent for anal intercourse at 18 for non-married couples. Funny that. So you could consent, but not to anal intercourse unless you were married. So before 18, you couldn't do that. I wonder why that one wasn't included. We'll get back to this. But this is where this is why the case came to light and why the age of consent was raised. So case of Dale Eric Beckham. One of the motivators for the reform of these laws in Canada was the case of Dale Eric Beckham. In March 2005, Beckham, then 31 years old, traveled from his home in Woodland, Texas, to Ottawa, Ontario, to meet with a 14-year-old boy he had met over the internet. The boy's parents, after observing him sneaking away in the middle of the night into a taxi, alerted the police, who tracked the cab to a downtown hotel. Police found Beckham and the boy unclothed in a hotel room where they were engaged in sexual activity. It was later determined that the two had also engaged in sexual intercourse the previous night. Police had also discovered hundreds of pornographic images of children on a laptop computer that Beckham had brought with him from Texas. Beckham was arrested and held without bail. In Beckham's home state of Texas, the age of consent is 17, and violators can face prison terms of up to 10 to 20 years. In Canada, sexual activity with teenagers as young as 14 was legal until this change, as long as it was consensual and the adult was not in position of authority or dependency. Okay, a 14-year-old can't consent. I know what the legal standard was, but they cannot consent. The boy, who reportedly suffered from social anxiety disorder, had shown signs of being suicidal, insisted during interviews with the police that the sex with Beckham was consensual. It was not consensual. Consequently, the only crime Beckham could be prosecuted for in Canada was a relatively minor offense of possession of CP. I'm sorry, how is that a relatively minor offense? But yeah, an adult man traveled all the way from Texas to Ottawa to have sex with a 14-year-old child. And the only thing that the parents could do about it, and the only thing the authorities could do, was charge him for the CP that was on his computer. But what he did to that child, no consequences. In November 2005, Beckham pleaded guilty and was sentenced to the time already served. He was then ordered deported back to the United States. After being notified of his arrest in Canada, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agents searched Beckham's home in Woodland, Texas, where they discovered a massive quantity of CP on his computer, with some depicting children less than 12 years old engaged in sexual acts with adults. After returning to the United States, Beckham was immediately arrested and held without bond. So he faced some consequences, but not for what he did to that child. In 2007, Beckham pleaded guilty to a federal charge of transporting child CP to Canada, although his lawyer argued unsuccessfully that Beckham's behavior was the result of diminished capacity, and so on and so forth. But yeah, so down to LGBT rights, activists criticized the bill because it did not address the issue of equality and maintained that the then current Canadian age of consent for anal sex outside of marriage at 18. Hilary Cook, a spokeswoman for gay rights group Ego Canada, stated the bill was an attempt to score partisan points. In June 2019, so it took more than 10 years for it to be adjusted. C-75 passed both houses of Parliament in Canada and received royal assent, which repealed Section 159 effectively immediately and made the age of consent equal at 16 for all individuals. You know what? You should have just changed it to be up to 18 at the time. You know, when you were doing all this, just make everything 18. The Canadian AIDS Society stated that increasing the age of consent could result in young people being more secretive about their sexual practices, not seeking out the information they need. This will place youth at an increased risk of contracting HIV/AIDS and other sexually transmitted disease. The Canadian Children's Rights Council also referenced the article of the Globe and Mail, raising concerns it would decrease the pursuit of condoms. Again, I don't know how raising the age of consent would put children in more danger. That makes no sense to me. But yeah. Do nothing to keep youth out of harm. Okay. And that is that. Oh. That is all of the content that I wanted to go over today with that in its own separate thing. And see, we're not even at 2.5 hours, which is good because I'm actually really hungry. I didn't eat before this. Bad habit of mine. Oh, so heavy subject that I wanted to actually touch on and go into detail. Felt it was important to get different perspectives out there on this. Yeah, there's just no excuse for what Megyn Kelly said. The fact that she still has a job is astonishing. Like, she absolutely should be shunned off of all platforms for saying what she said. Kevin O'Leary should be shunned off of all platforms for just being Kevin O'Leary. Never mind what he just recently said. So, let's check what people are saying in the SandBox. Bad Lefty says, wow, in 100, Sandy. I don't know what that is in reference to. I've seen Hard Candy, Mozart. Yeah, it's a tough movie to watch, but it is a good movie. Elliot is in it. Elliot, oh, what's his last name? Before he had transitioned. Okay, saw that. Saw that. Let's see. Or Broomer, Trump and the right wing doesn't believe in politically correct sex, like consent. That's woke. Yeah. Oh, right. Like, that's part of it that I want to get to as well. That I meant to get to when we were talking about the education aspect is, you know, if the age of consent in Canada is 16, then in schools, by that age, they should be fully educated on everything to do with sex. If that's the case. You know, age of consent is 16, so by that age, in all schools, all children should be absolutely, fully, 100% educated on sex. And even if the age of consent is raised to 18, they should still be, by the age of 16, educated on everything to do about sex. The idea that you can pull your child out of school and they can consent to sex before they even know what it is, all those parents need their hard drives checked. All those children need wellness checks. A lot of those children are being set up to be in abusive relationships as well. Told to just submit to their man and stuff of that sort. Bad Lefty, I don't consent to my kid learning about consent. Grand Theft Autobot, how dare the school teach my kids sex ed? Let them learn from porn like I did because my parents were too scared to teach me. I think they're saying now, like, the average age, I don't know if it's for boys and girls, but for boys at least, the average age so they come across porn is 12. 12. Because it's so prevalent and it's out there and easy to access. Yeah, this society is just messed up. Like, it's messed up. There needs to be a complete societal overhaul in how we raise people. Got a little hair on my eyelash. Just floated right on. And it's very tiny, so it's hard to get off. Mozart, should they be taught improper names of body parts or proper names? Yeah. Today's students we will discuss bonusful. Yeah. Real John. Everyone is allowed to change their gender whenever they want as a treat. Yes, that would be nice. Like, I don't get why some people are so afraid. Like, what if they change their mind? And fine, you know, let them experiment. Let children be children. Let them explore their identities. And if they feel like they're a girl, let them explore that. And they like, nah, I think I'm more of a boy, then let them explore that. Just because they changed their mind once doesn't mean they can't change it back. It just means they're exploring, you know. Maybe they're more fluid. It's, yeah. Mozart, men have what we call a ding-dong and women have a hoo-ha. You know, that changes the nature of my ringtone a lot. Because my ringtone is Sam Cedar going ding-dong, ding-dong, ding-dong. So every time he's saying ding-dong, is he really just saying penis? This guy is a real penis. Bad lefty. Also, progressive conservative is oxymoronic. Yes, we have that in Canada, though. It's supposed to be like progressive on like individual rights, identities, things like that, but conservative on economics and whatnot. But it's never that. It's Mozart. Many parents in the U.S. don't believe their children should be taught about slavery. So, yeah. No, parents should not be able to opt their kids out of any classes, you know. Just none. Hello, Soul Life. Let's see. Mandatory minimums. Yes, that was the word that I was going to for. Grand Theft Autobot, sex ed needs to be a thing. I'm sick of constantly hearing about sexual assault in the news. Yeah. It needs to be taught. And it needs to be taught like evenly and stuff so that boys are more aware of what consent is. And again, it's a big societal thing. Like they need to be taught not to feel like they should be pressuring girls into sex, or you know, the whole grape culture and everything. Like there's so many layers that need to be dealt with, and they need to be dealt with. Mumi, the age for marriage needs to be increased too. Many of the refugees here marry off their daughters at 16. That is not okay. They're setting up their daughters for abuse. That's it. Any child marriage, it's just abuse. Somebody was saying 42 states allow child marriages. No, it's legalized abuse. That's all it is. Like if it would be considered illegal to do that if you're not married, then it should still be illegal to do that if you are married. Like just getting that piece of paper shouldn't suddenly make all the consequences and the effects that it would have on that child moot. It's kind of like, you know, parents are allowed to hit their kids. But if they weren't their parents and it was any other adult, then it's illegal. So how is it okay for a parent to hit their child. How is that any different other than it also dispels any sense of safety that the child might have with their parents? Yeah. So life, I worked with an Indian girl that had an arranged marriage scheduled for her 18th B-day. A stranger she wanted to marry out of love instead. It was sad to see. I knew somebody like that in high school as well. And then I've also heard stories of a guy from India was here and he went back home for a vacation and came back married. And he had no say in it. No, all that sort of stuff. Religious institutions, I'm just so against. BCAT, the adult is inherently in a position of power. Yeah, I have no idea what happened to the boy. Because he'd be... I can't math. 2008 is close to being 20 years ago. Yeah, he'd be in his 30s, his late 30s now. Bad lefty, heavy as fuck, but so important. Looney Tunes today. You give Megyn Kelly a Karen voice? Well, I wasn't really speaking on her behalf. She was doing all the speaking, but I would absolutely give her a Karen voice if I was trying to mimic her. My cat is staring at the ceiling, like it's looking at something, but there's nothing up there. It's one of those times where it's like, are you seeing a spirit floating by? Is that it? You're seeing a spirit? Because he's not just looking, he's following something, you know? And it could just be like a piece of fluff that I can't see in the light or something. But it's always interesting when a cat is like, and there's nothing there, but they're following something with their eyes. That's it, Looney Tunes 9000. Elliot Page is his name. Is the one who made me lose my medical license. I will never use pronouns and will... Yeah, Jordan B. Peterson. But Elliot Page was in the movie Hard Candy before he had transitioned, and it's a good but heavy movie. Bad lefty, informed consent. If the 16 to 18-year-olds are not informed, how can they give informed consent? Yep. Looney Tunes 9000, LMFO. Is he really saying penis, Sandy? Well, apparently, if you're calling a penis a ding-dong, then every time Sam Cedar says ding-dong, he's saying penis. I actually have the volume up off my phone because I was waiting for a phone call today, but I haven't received any messages. Otherwise, you would have heard him say ding-dong, ding-dong, ding-dong. So my phone is just saying penis, penis, penis. And I'm the only one with that ringtone because I made it. Hello, Germ. Hey there, was a little thing that said YouTube featured, so that's cool. I don't know what that means. If somebody sends me a direct message right now, you'll hear my cell phone go off and you'll hear Sam Cedar say penis, penis, penis. Oh, it said that under the video, apparently. Cool. So Life Congress voted to release the Epstein files so Trump can't veto it. I don't trust it, to be honest. Yeah, it happened today. I touched on it at the beginning of this stream. So I know that there's going to be more people talking about it tomorrow that know more about the ins and outs. They were talking about it a bit on the Majority Report today, saying that this was just a way of kicking the can down the road somehow. So yeah, it's one of those things. I'll believe it when it happens. You know, always hear a lot of promises from politicians and stuff, but until the information is actually out there and the journalists and investigators are analyzing it and stuff, I don't believe it will happen. Like, it's just, until it happens, I'll believe it when it happens. Mumi, although it's hard to imagine my mom got married at 16 in 1944. Whew. I know my grandmother got married very young as well. And that's the thing, like, when people think back, they hear these cutesy little stories sometimes, and then they don't realize that, no, the entire time the woman was being abused. She never chose to be in the marriage and stuff, because there was like a story of how, you know, this guy came into town on a horseback, and he saw this girl, and he fell in love with her, and pulled her up on the horse, and went away with her, and married her and stuff. At no point did she ever consent to it. And apparently when he would say this story later on in life, when they had their grandchildren and stuff, she would just have like a distant look in her face. Because, yeah, a lot of the times, like, my grandmother, I don't think she ever wanted to be a mother. I got close with her before she passed away. And it was my sense she never wanted to be a mother, but she never had that choice. And I'm just entirely grateful, internally grateful, I don't know, that I had that choice. Because my grandmother was very much like me. You know, autism is apparently genetic. And the more I know about it and the more I look back, the more I realize that she was as well. And she was not a good parent. She was abusive. You know, she was a horrible mother. And she probably, you know, if she had the option to not have children, she probably would have never had children. I'm just very, very glad that I had that option to not have children. In fact, my government encouraged it. At the age of 25, I got my tubes tied. The doctor said, given your mental health background, I don't think it'll be a problem to push through. 3 weeks later, it was done. Score 1 for eugenics in Canada. I was glad it happened, but then when I realized why it happened, kind of a kick in the teeth. But I would still get nightmares of being pregnant. It was the best decision I ever made in my life. Yeah, I shared it at the beginning of the stream. I'll just pop it back up on screen for people who are interested. So Epstein bill passed 427 to 1. Clay Higgins is the no vote. So everyone who's in Clay Higgins' writing, start a recall. The feds should probably go and check his hard drive. That's my opinion on that. Bad Lefty, hashtag kidnapping. Yeah, that's usually how it would happen, is the man would kidnap a girl that he wanted to marry, and that's that. And in some areas around the world, some cultures, the way that a man could marry a girl is by raping her. And then the family would force her to marry the rapist because of religious beliefs. Mumi saying the Epstein Act needs to go to the Senate next. So it's not out there yet. Until it's out there, I'm not going to believe it's out there. Okay, so I think that is all for today. This was just be a narrow-focused, still a rambly, almost 3-hour long live stream. So tomorrow I will be on this space, and everything is tentative at this point. It all depends on the health of my kitty cat, Frodo. I'm having to spoon feed him right now. those, they call them churro treat tubes or whatever, food. You see them on videos and stuff where they rip it off and the cats are looking at it and stuff. But I have to hold him and like force it in his mouth. And he's fussy about it, but he's not fighting me. So he is taking it to some extent. But they can't be meal replacements. So I decided to hack an icing piping kit, I guess you could say. So I got an icing piping kit from a dollar store, and I shoved cat food in it and snipped the tip so that was big enough to allow the cat food to go through. And use that to also get the food in his mouth. But he's okay. It's just last Wednesday I had to cancel my appearance on this space last minute, unfortunately, because I just started Frodo on a pain medication earlier that day, and the vet didn't warn me that it could cause him to become very lethargic, drowsy, and wobbly. And so around noon, when I saw him walking around and his back half started falling over and things of that sort, I thought he was dying. I thought he was going to be dead in a couple hours. So needless to say, I completely lost my shit, and I was in no condition to be able to do a live stream at 4 o'clock. I also had to cancel. I was going to be having an interview with Mark Allen. He was on this space for the election of Mandami. He's the infectious illness expert. We're going to have that interview again, and it will be on Wednesday. So it won't be live. I'll do a pre-record and send it out. But there's lots of stuff that I want to talk to him about. Canadian related. It would be good to talk to an infectious expert about it. Things like how Canada has lost its measles-free status. And, the ostrich farm thing. It'll be fun. It'll be very, I'm looking forward to the conversation with him. I'll be doing my regular news live stream on Sunday. Be covering talk of the budget here, the absolute ridiculousness of the Conservatives. There were two conservatives, prominent conservatives, that literally hid behind a curtain until all the votes were out to make sure that the budget would pass before they ran over to their seats to vote no. And they only voted no because there was enough people who abstained from it so that the vote would pass regardless of what they voted. So chicken shit of them. Oh my God. Because they were basically waiting, and if they needed to abstain, they would have abstained to make sure that the budget went through. But since 2 people from the Conservatives abstained, 2 people from the NDP abstained, therefore it didn't matter if they voted no, it was still going to go through. So then they ran back to their seats and said, technical difficulties, I was having troubles with the app. But you see, part of it is too, they were hiding in the room because once the vote starts, the doors are locked. You can't enter or exit. And there's pictures of them literally hiding behind a curtain. It's, oh my God. Oh my God. So I'll be talking about that. Be talking about how Alberta just used the notwithstanding clause to stop the court case against the human rights court case against the premier for the trans legislation, the anti-trans legislation she put through. So she's using the notwithstanding clause to strip trans folks of their rights. Not shocked. So I'll be talking about all of that on Sunday. Again, all of this is tentative. If Frodo takes an unfortunate turn, then I'm not going to be well. Bad lefty. It's Dr. Mark Allen. He was on Dr. Mark Allen Dairy. Okay, so we might be talking about the same thing. It's just the name is in a different order than what I'm seeing. Yeah. So yeah, things are still touch and go with Frodo. He was supposed to get blood work done yesterday to see if he's going to be okay for the surgery on the 28th. But then they made a mistake realizing it has to be done the same week. So on Monday, I'm taking him back in for blood work to make sure his kidneys haven't completely collapsed. And they have to do a heart pallet on him to make sure his heart is healthy enough for the surgery. Because he is 18. And then if those if that blood work comes back as okay, then he'll have his surgery on the 28th. My fingers are crossed that he's going to be healthy enough for that surgery because the mass on his neck needs to be removed. And then hopefully after that, he'll start eating again on his own. He does eat a little bit on his own, one specific treat. That's it. So I have to spoon feed him 3 times a day to make sure that he's getting enough food in him. But just a massive, wonderful thank you to the people in my communities who have helped me out with the costs of not only his vet bills, but my car needed over $1,000 in repairs. And so today my car is now fully repaired, thanks to the generosity of this community. And I'm not freaking out about Frodo's bill because I have no idea how much the surgery is going to cost if he gets it, when he gets it. But because of the amazing generosity of this community, I'm not scared anymore. And it means the world to me. My next goal is to get my channel big enough that I get enough income from it that I don't have to do this, where I don't have to make pleas for help when I get these sudden financial hits. And it doesn't take much. I don't need to make that much money because I live cheap. It doesn't take much for me to be able to cover these when they happen on my own. And that's the goal, is to get to that point next. And then that way, if somebody in the community needs an extra $30 or $40 of help, then I'd be in a position to help them. But also, I made that pledge that for every $300 raised, I would make a portrait at cost for people living with poverty or people with less. Nobody has taken me up on it yet. There's several available. So if you would never be able to afford one of my pencil portraits here, contact me. It will be at cost. I'm not going to means test anyone. So, just let me know and I can give you a rough estimate of how much it will cost. But what you're paying for is the cost of it to get professionally scanned, a print for myself, and shipping. That's it. That's all you'd be paying for. So let me know if you think this will be doable. Unfortunately, I don't know off the top of my head what it will be. Well under $100 though. Let's put it that way. So Soul Life, thank you so much for becoming a Feldspar. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, because goal is to get my channel healthy enough that I don't have to turn and just hope that there's other people in my community. Because I know, that's the thing. I know a lot of you would love to be able to financially help me, but you're not in the position to, and I get that. So liking, subscribing, sharing, promoting me on other channels, all of that helps and you don't have to pay a thing. Soul Life says, I'm a member everywhere I mod for. I just realized I wasn't a member here. Oh, now you are. Moomy, it's over $2,000 to remove a cat's tooth in Nova Scotia. It would depend on the vet clinics. I have a not-for-profit vet that I can go to, but it will depend on the different vet clinics. A lot of people don't realize part of the reason why it's so expensive to have a tooth removed on a cat is that their teeth are fused to their jaw bones. So they have to go under and really just carve the entire tooth out of the bone. And that's why it's a very complicated surgery. John Lytham, also, thank you so much for becoming a Feldspar. I really appreciate that. Soul Life, I know you mod for another channel that I am very interested in connecting with. Well, you probably mod for a whole bunch of channels I'm interested in connecting with. But a certain Zateo. No, there's lots of channels I would love to connect with. I'd love to be able to talk with Francesca, I'd love to do more than just a phone call into the Majority Report, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, thank you, everyone, to all the support. It's really helped getting this going. Now that Frodo is stable-ish for now, I'll be able to work on the TYT essay. I got some good work done on it over the weekend. Let's see, I'll pull up the image. Let's go there. I was doing some research and I came across this old video of TYT. Oh my god. Okay. Y'all need to help me out with this. I'm looking at my this is my Left of the Box Twitter profile. I only have 132 followers on it. Please, if you are following my Sandy Lovis account, can you go over and start following my Left of the Box account? Because this is not good. This is, I need a hell of a lot more people on there. To build up that. And same on Blue Sky, although Blue Sky I get a little bit better follow backs and stuff. But I came across an image. Well, I came across a video that's 10 years old on TYT, and I took a screen grab of it. Oh my god, the screen grab is absolutely wild. This is from 10 years ago. Ben Mankiewicz with Jimmy Dore, Dave Rubin, Anna Kasparian talking about how Glenn Beck was trying to defend Bill Crosby in his charges. What a screen grab. Wow. Oh. But I want to get that video done, those video essays done. I think they will help my channel, although I don't know, because like I did the Charlie Kirk video thinking it would do well. It didn't. Not really. It didn't even break 500 views, let alone like 1,000 and stuff. So I'm like terribly worried. I'm spending a year on these videos and they won't even get 1,000 views. Because I really do hope that they do help my channel boost it up a bit. But then once that's done, I can focus more on doing like short video essays, ones that are about 10 minutes long, 15 minutes long, somewhere along the lines of like what David Dole does, as well as like Mike from the Humanist Report, as well as doing my live streams, clipping my live streams, and all of that will help grow my channel so I can focus more on that, as well as the thing that I want to focus on the most, my book. Oh, I can't wait to get back to this. I so can't wait to get back to this. I dream about it. I literally dream about it. But I know if I start working on my book before I finish that TYT essay, the TYT essay will never get done. So, yeah. So, why don't I start signing off by doing that? And I'll go check on Frodo before I make myself dinner. Just super worried about him. Hopefully he can get the mass removed. As far as I can tell, even though it is growing, it's benign. Like it's just on the skin. Like you can almost pull it up and you can feel almost like under it type thing. So it's not fused onto anything below him, which is good. So, you know, if this is what's causing him not to eat, then because it's making him uncomfortable or something, then hopefully he's 18, but he's got a lot of life left in him. I had a 16-year-old cat pass away, and when his time came, I knew it was his time. When Tulip's time came, I knew it was her time, even though she was much younger. I just don't feel like it's his time. He's still so alive, you know? Like he's still alert and can jump up and down off my bed and wants affection and is responsive. Like you would never imagine that cat is 18. Never, never. So fingers crossed. But hopefully from the support I've gotten from the community, will cover off the cost of the vet bills that I got. Right now, everything is covered off to the point of the car repairs. And the blood work I have to get done on Monday is covered, and then I have a little extra. So it all depends on how much the surgery is going to cost, if I need more help. But yeah, please, if you are living with less and would like a portrait, reach out to me. And don't be proud about it, you know. I don't want to have to beg people to take me up on this offer. Don't feel like you're taking it away from somebody else. Far too few people will actually approach me for it. So if you would like one and you think you could afford it, send me a message. So 2 new members today, Soul Life and John. Thank you so much to Feldspar. So, like, I think I'm on Francesca's naughty list. They didn't mod me on their channel, but they modded Autumn, and we mod for her on Zateo. I was critical towards Aramate, and Bad Hasperata hates Vanguard. Okay, I don't know all the drama behind it. Matt Lieb hates the Vanguard? Really? I have my issues with the Vanguard. I do watch a lot of their content, but I do, you know, let's just say we can have disagreements and not hate each other. And I have some disagreements. But I still like to stay up to date with the gossip sometimes. And if they were to ever have me on their channel, we could talk about it. Mumi, now most of the vet clinics are owned by corporates instead of private. Yeah. Ponzi Coin, the Leftist Mafia is really good too. Yeah, I'd love to get on there. Mumi, what is TYT? Oh, that is not a short answer. The Young Turks, it's the largest online progressive network. Not anymore. I used to make videos for them on one of their channels called Rebel HQ. American owned run, they used to be the largest progressive network. They're still a very large network, so they do YouTube news shows and things of that sort. They actually inspired a lot of us to start content creating and getting involved in politics the way that we are. I have a couple videos on them, but at one point, the 2 main characters of TYT, the CEO and the producer, who are also the main hosts of the show, started with some right-wing takes, some anti-trans takes, and a lot of pushback. And now they're just, yeah, it's a long story. But now they're misrepresenting the left. They're attacking the left. Sometimes it feels like more than they attack the right. Even though they'll still try to claim to be on the left. Anna, not so much. Jank still tries to claim to be on the left. So it's a thing. It's a thing. If you start Googling it, you'll find so many stories on it right now. But be blissfully unaware at this point. As Soul Life says, God bless your lack of knowledge. Yeah. I think when you see my videos on it, when I finally get those videos posted, it does a good sum up job of what's happening. But the fact that, you know, here I am. I used to be employed by them. Well, not employed. I was a contractor. And that I'm going to speak out so heavily against them says something, you know. It's a principle stance. John, I have more of a problem with Vanguard chat than Silly and Billy. I never participate in their chat. Yes, I know, 5 hours later, and it's not going to be 5 hours. I'm starving. I'm really hungry. Like, I can feel my stomach grumbly. John, fairly certain I saw them in 2001, 2002. Was that their Air America days? I don't think TYT goes back that long. That far? At least not in its iteration online. Bonzi Coin says Jeremy Scahill is a very good reporter from Rebel HQ. No doubt they still have good people that work for them, but quite honestly, I have issues with people who, even though I understand why, they won't speak out or step away. To me, I think a little less of them. That's just the way it is. If you can't stand up for trans folks, black and brown folks, if you can't live the progressive values that you espouse, I think a little less, you know, that's just the way it is. But yeah, still a lot of work to get done on that video. It will be probably over, because, you know, even the thought of it getting done by like mid-December seems wild to me. Like it will happen by then. And that is like the year mark of when I first kind of got the bug in my brain to do this. So chances are it won't be ready till the new year. Start 2026 off with a bang. But as soon as I get it done, I'll get it out. So hopefully before then, but who knows, who knows? Especially with Frodo the way he is, because I'm going to have to sign off for a bit after Frodo. Frodo is the only creature in this world that I'm currently bonded to. Losing him will just be beyond devastating. So, yeah. Anyway, on that cheery note, I need to eat, and I've been craving making myself a grilled cheese sandwich. Oh right, I should check to see if I'm going to send you off to anyone. I gotta get into a better habit of rating other channels. Let's see, who's on YouTube right now? Do you know what? Why don't we raid this space? It's live right now. Oh, so is Environmental Coffee House. Let's see. Tell you what, we're going to, I raided Environmental Coffee House last time, so we're going to raid this space this time. So I just need to go in here and edit this. Customization, redirect, add. This one. Save. Okay, so we should be raiding over to this space when this is done. Ponzi Coin, general question, what's up with MTG today? Mike from the Humanist Report did a video today. You can go check that one out. He touches on some of that, but I don't know if there's any new details, but I do not take her sincerely at all with her support of the Epstein folks, survivors and whatnot. And had Trump been more amenable to her, give her cabinet positions and stuff like that, I'm fairly certain she would be just as bad as Megyn Kelly right now. But you can go check out the Humanist Report. He did a video on the Epstein stuff today and touches on some of her comments, so you can go check that out. But she's basically trying to set herself up as the warrior for the victims of Epstein, and it's just a savvy political move, really, when it comes down to it. Okay, so don't forget all of these things here. It's always hard to mirror in this camera. John saying she is a shameless fraud and charlatan as well as a big, huge bigot. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so with all of that, I'll see some of you tomorrow. See some of you on Sunday, hopefully. Salut, à la prochaine. Oh, and thank you for coming out. Thank you for becoming members. Thank you to the mods. Thank you for people who are already supporting my content in any way whatsoever by becoming a patron or a member, purchasing things off my wish list, which is linked in the description box below. All the wonderful help and support that I get from these communities has helped me get to where I am today. So thank you. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.